I can't imagine what the 2 refineries going down is going to mean for California. We can't get fuel from any other state. There's no pipeline coming into California and can't even truck it in. I guess renewables could take part of the volume, but I mean, not on gasoline.
Welcome to Jobbers, American Energy, the podcast that tells the untold stories of the people powering America. I'm your host, Jason Case, and each month we go beyond headlines to meet the folks keeping our country running, one job at a time. Let's get into it. Lauren Roberts, thank you for doing this. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I've been excited about this because there's a lot going on with California, and I definitely want to get into that with you because I think that you know a lot about it. And most of the public isn't aware of the shenanigans that take place in that state. So, but before we get to that, I like to start off with some fun questions and give you a bit of a introduction, not a holistic introduction because you've been in the industry a long time, but just a little bit about you. Okay. All right. So to get started on that, first off, Lauren, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, I would say both, but if I had to choose one, I would probably say night owl.
Night owl?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite comfort food?
Well, I'm Italian, so definitely pasta or like gnocchis or raviolis or something to that effect. So
my wife, Christy, she's big on bolognese. We had bolognese last night. She's great at it. We use different pastas from time to time.
Oh, okay.
Usually because like the girls will get sick of a rigatoni and they want something else.
Right.
What's your favorite pasta dish?
I tend to like the angel hair, like the thinner noodles. So I'm not like, I mean, penne or rigatoni is like good too, but yeah, I tend to like the thinner ones.
I'm with you there. My litmus test when I go to a new Italian restaurant is linguine and clams.
Oh.
So whenever I try something new, I always, like a new restaurant, I'm always going with linguine and clams, and that's kind of like my barometer of the caliber of Italian restaurant I'm dealing with.
Right.
All right.
I agree with that.
What is your favorite TV show or movie?
So, my husband and I, like try to find like a show to watch together or whatever. And so we're usually behind everyone else, but I feel like we're really behind because like we've just started watching Landman. So it's
a great show.
Super obsessed with it. We watched Succession, loved that one. We are rewatching Mayor of Kingstown. Yes.
Yeah.
I liked that one.
Hardcore.
Yeah. It's a little bit crazy, so, but I like it.
I got a new suggestion for you.
Okay.
Chris and I just watched this on a flight. We had a long flight recently. We're taking the whole family for a little vacation, and we watched House of Guinness on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of, the way I've described it is it's Downton Abbey meets Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
It's the same crew that put out Peaky Blinders, but it's all about Guinness, the beer empire.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And like the patriarch, this is how it starts. The founder, the dad, he just died. And basically he's leaving his Guinness empire to his 4 kids. Mm-hmm. And there's all sorts of problems with the kids. And it's like, how is this crew going to keep this empire going? And it's during the time when like, there's a lot happening between the Irish and the English.
Oh, sure.
And whether or not they're going to be, nationalist or loyalist. So it's kind of a period piece. Like it captures the time really well. And that Guinness is ultimately going to be successful. But I think like the suspense of the show is how can they be successful with this much against them?
Right.
It's really good.
Okay.
So whenever you get around to getting through the other shows, give that one a watch. It's
okay.
The first season just came out.
Oh, okay. So we won't be too far behind. Okay.
No,
good.
All right. Last question. What's your favorite thing to do with your family?
Oh gosh. I don't, we really love to like just ride our beach cruisers around town. So yeah, I guess, because the weather is always so good. So we're like, oh, what should we do today? And we're like, yeah, let's go. We'll ride around beach cruisers, like maybe grab an appetizer somewhere, like just.
Honestly, that's true, though, for California, because, we go back and we travel there a lot. Mm-hmm. We go to Coronado, we go down to Manhattan Beach.
Oh, yeah.
And like, what do you do down there? I'm like, you just kind of go about your day. We don't spend a lot of time in the house.
Yeah.
we're always out walking or riding bikes or going down to the Strand or surfing
Right.
beach time or whatever it is, because the weather's beautiful all the time and it's just fun being outdoors. Great food.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get it. Yeah, your favorite thing to do is probably living in California.
It's true. One of the good things about California is the weather.
It is the best weather.
Yes, it is.
So next, before we get into California shenanigans or the regulatory environment and every challenge that imposes on our industry, I wanted to give a brief background to you personally so that people know what you do and how long you worked in the industry.
Okay.
So you were born in Arcadia, California.
Yes.
For those that aren't super familiar, just outside Pasadena area.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Right where Arcadia is where the Santa Anita racetrack is, if you like ponies.
Okay.
And I'm Italian, so my dad owned horses. So, yeah.
Understood. Growing up in Arcadia, you actually stayed local for college. You went out to UC Santa Barbara. You got your degree out there.
Yes.
And then your first college gig coming out of university, you were working for a hotel group, Montage.
Yes.
And that was group sales?
Yes. In Laguna Beach, I worked at a hotel in Santa Barbara. I was going to college in the spa. And then I kind of didn't know what to do. And so after I graduated, and because I wanted to take the foreign service exam, but then 9/11 happened and I kind of like rethought some things. And so I moved down to Laguna Beach, and then I started at Montauk, got a group sales job, which was, pretty fun.
Pretty awesome coming straight out of university.
Yeah.
Especially from Laguna Beach.
Yeah. I mean, it was a beautiful property and like right there driving on the beach, like working on the beach. So yes, it was great.
And then after that, so then you actually crack into the oil industry and you're working in sales and marketing with a very large retailer in California by the name of G&M Oil Company. Correct. And you were there for about 15 years.
Correct. Yes.
And then divine intervention happens, and then we get familiar with Lauren, and Lauren gets familiar with ROC, and you joined our team in 2022, and now you're heading up all of marketing for our company.
Yes. And I love it.
Awesome having you.
Well, thank you. I love having it. It's been really great. You and Christy and Dana and Pat and everyone are amazing.
I think I'm not great at a lot, but one of the things that we're good at is finding good people, particularly people that are better at things than we are, and making sure they're a good cultural fit. And I think we knocked it out of the park with that one. So,
yeah, you guys have a good group here.
We're doing some fun stuff with marketing. I'm really looking forward to next year, because I think some of what we're working on this year and that foundation that we're laying is going to be pretty exciting.
Yes, it will be.
All right. The most important thing about you personally is that you are a mother. Your daughter's 12 years old?
Correct. Yes.
And loving wife to a first responder. He's with Orange County Fire Department?
Correct. Yes. He's been, actually met him at Montage. He was a doorman. And, I worked in the spa. He was working for CAL FIRE. They just did like seasonal firemen. So he was like trying to get, full time. And then so he did, but he's now with Orange County Fire. He's an engineer. So he drives the engine and does that. He works in the USAR, the Urban Search and Rescue team. So like FEMA funded. So nice. Anything like that he goes to.
I'm a big fan of the first responders. Shout out to all first responders. Thank you for your work and doing your work in dangerous environments. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we all benefit from it. So now to jump into California. Before we do that, you are a committee member for CFCA. So you were very much involved in the summit. You're also a member of the Clean Fuels Alliance of America, which deals with the renewable diesel, biodiesel, ethanol, and even SAF market as well. So very knowledgeable when it comes to California, when it comes to clean fuels. So we're just now getting out of the CFCA annual trade show, and there's been a lot going on in the industry. So I want to kick it off with, before we get into some of that information, what does CARB stand for? Why should we be concerned with it?
Sure. CARB. It's the California Air Resources Board. I believe it actually started in 1967. It was formed under Governor Reagan. And it basically was to help with air quality, human health issues. It actually, I believed it merged two departments at that time and put them into one. And so they kind of, they regulate our fuels, a lot having to do with air quality. And CARB, it definitely has some certain specific rules that we have to abide by.
So it's essentially, it's an acronym. When you hear CARB, it's California Air Resource Board. And with that comes a whole set of rules that you have to abide by if you're dealing with fuels in California.
Yes.
And I think the intention was admirable.
Sure. Absolutely.
Everybody wants clean air. Everybody wants clean water, right? But you also want a modern way of life, and energy has to be affordable and reliable. So trying to, I think the dichotomy of that issue is not simple. It's a complex problem to solve. But very much like California, I think they go too far with their regulatory environment. And what it's done is in my opinion, it's essentially created California as an island.
It is a fuel island, absolutely.
We do business, all around, Western United States, but let's say California has a problem with its fuel supply. They're limited with the supply, and you want to support California, and you're only an hour across the border. You don't have the ability to truck in fuel because it's a different formulation.
Right.
It's a different spec of product. So you can't bring fuel from a Nevada into California.
Right.
Which is crazy, and it creates a lot of supply chain constraints.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a regulatory situation that was created by the state, which does create problems, although I think they did it from a good standpoint of trying to keep the air quality healthy. But now you couple that with additional layers of taxes and regulations. One of the things that we hear all the time is, why is fuel so expensive in California? Yeah. Like, why is it so far above the national average? If you were standing in an elevator and somebody was asking you that question, how would you answer it? Well,
CARB's programs definitely do bring on added fees. So the low carbon fuel standard, the LCFS, CARB's website says it adds 10 cents to the gallon, but third parties estimated is closer to 17 cents per gallon is what you pay. There's also the cap and trade or cap and invest program, which I believe is about another 20 cents or so per gallon. And then, of course, you have just your California state taxes on gasoline. I think it's 61 cents now.
And local taxes.
Yeah. And you say 10 cents or so for local taxes, and then the 2 cent per gallon UST fee. So I think it's about $1.14, I think, is what it averages out to be, is what California pays in taxes, outside of federal and all of that. So, I mean, it's crazy.
So when you're paying for a gallon of fuel, gasoline, premium diesel, whatever it is, like, it's safe to say that well north of $1 a gallon is basically taxes that are created by California, whether it's CARB, whether it's LCFS, low carbon fuel standard, cap and trade, state and local taxes, including excise taxes. I mean, you rack all those up and you benchmark that against other states, it becomes pretty obvious why the cost of fuel in California is much more expensive than even neighboring states.
Absolutely.
That aren't oil producing states, don't have local refineries, and are reliant on outside states to bring their product in. So they've already got supply chain costs that California doesn't have.
Right.
And they're still less expensive. For instance, Hawaii.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Hawaii's in the middle of the ocean and very limited with refining and, creating the product there. But somehow they're less expensive than California, which is an oil producing region that has most of the refineries on the West Coast, yet somehow is far more expensive than neighboring states.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. I always wonder what Catalina's fuel is. I wonder what the gas stations there sell it for.
Oh, I know. Like, yeah, if you want to be rich, just sell fuel to the boats going in and out of Catalina. Super captive market.
I know.
Everybody's just so desensitized to high fuel costs in California.
It's like, yeah.
We're obviously big fans of California. You live there. I used to live there for close to 10 years, and we vacation there every year. That's where we get out of the heat of Las Vegas, is, take our kids down there. So, I'm a huge fan of the state. I'm a huge fan of the weather. Huge fan of the people in the state for the most part. Most of the people that I interact with are great. Not a big fan of the politics and the regulatory environment. I think it's super unhealthy for businesses, and I think you're seeing a mass exodus of California.
Yeah. I mean, Chevron corporate headquarters, that was their home state for years.
Yeah, so
And
let's talk about that.
they're out.
Not only did Chevron's corporate headquarters finally move, which is sad because it's a beautiful building. A lot
Oh my
of
gosh.
history,
Yes. So
but now
beautiful.
you got shortly here, Phillips, their refinery in Southern California is going to go offline. And then
Yes.
Valero's refinery
Yeah.
is going offline as well. And between those two refineries, it's approximately 20% of the refining capacity in California. What do you think that's going to do for California?
Again, and I did just read Phillips 66 got their last shipment of crude at the end of the month. So they will cease operations. I think it was October 16th. So they're totally done now.
They're just mothballing the
Yeah,
refinery.
exactly.
As far as I know, no one's buying it. They're just shutting it down because it's too expensive to refine fuel in California, which is crazy for those people that aren't super familiar with our industry. Refining margins are the largest margins that you're going to get, unless crude oil cracks like 100 a barrel. Then you're doing great if you're upstream.
Right.
But I would say like refinery and everything after that, the margins are really made there. So if you can't make money refining fuel, there's a big problem because there should be plenty of money made there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine what the two refineries going down is going to mean for California. I mean, because like you said, we can't get fuel from anywhere else, from any other state. There's no pipeline coming into California and can't even truck it in, like you said. So, I mean, I guess renewables could take part of the volume, but I mean, not on gasoline. So,
yeah, and I want to get to that in a second because I think that's another layer of complexity. But we talked about CARB, we talked about LCFS, we talked about cap and trade, state and local taxes. You have all those things working against you. Now you have 20% of your supply going offline. Demand isn't necessarily going to change. Yes, you have the advent of renewables and EV, but that's kind of forecasted out. You know how much market share that's going to erode or cannibalize. So demand's relatively stable. And now on top of all those taxes and programs and regulatory costs, you have limited supply. So there's a professor Professor Misch in California who talks about this endlessly and has done a lot of research on it. You know, he benchmarks somewhere in the $8 per gallon territory unless something changes.
Oh my gosh, that is just insane.
I think it's a bipartisan issue when you're paying $8 a gallon. As a constituent,
right.
Particularly if you're at a lower socioeconomic, class, that's going to hit home really hard. And I can't imagine that you're going to be on board with the politicians or representatives that have put you in that situation. So it might be one of those situations where it has to get worse before it gets better. But are you seeing any inklings of California starting to backtrack on their strategy of net zero as they're facing $8 per gallon looming in the near future?
Well, Newsom, of course, he's backtracking on the refineries a little bit, because he's getting pushback about it. But I mean, CARB certainly is not backtracking on anything. You actually go to the homepage of their website. It doesn't even say about CARB or anything. It's all EV this is their ZEB program. This is our future. And it's okay, well, we're not going to look at, a myriad of types of fuel to help reduce carbon emissions. It's just one way or the highway. You're not giving any, option to consumers. So I just you're right. It might have to get worse before, which I can't imagine it getting worse. So I don't know.
It's scary. Yeah. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, I hope they backtrack on bad policies.
Right.
You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. If there's no fruit there, why not change course? And we've seen little inklings of that where Newsom's starting to backtrack because he's losing the refineries. And I think they're allowing oil production to take place in Kern County.
Yeah.
Which is a rich oil region. And you got a lot of blue collar workers that can go out there and make a 6-figure salary if you just let them access the raw materials in the state. And get those raw materials in a responsible way. So I'm hopeful that they'll change. I don't see a lot of political goodwill that would lead to that. But at a certain point, you have to realize that you've imploded your local economy and the public at large is upset with this issue and they want affordable energy And you have to change some policies to allow that to, that environment to be created. Right now, they're going 180 degrees the opposite way.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and one thing about EVs that I love Tesla. I think it's an amazing product. Like as a product that was created, amazing. But it's a fossil fuel car.
Yeah.
Not just like the manufacturing process and how you get the raw materials to make an EV, but most people don't know where their power comes from.
Right.
It's not pixie dust that comes out of thin air. Largely natural gas and coal is where it comes from. So I'm totally fine with EVs, but please don't try to convince me that you're saving the world by driving EVs because I don't think that's reality.
No, it certainly is not. I mean, just because it has no tailpipe emissions, I mean, yes, that's great. I guess that's what they've just chosen as the winners is hydrogen and, EV, because there are no tailpipe emissions. But you just look at the life cycle and it doesn't really add up.
Because I think it's very wrong for government to choose winners and losers, right? I think the free market should take that. And it's not just that you're subsidizing an industry, which, okay, like if that's what you want to do, whatever. I'm not on board with that. But it's also that you're disallowing the choice of other things. Like you're saying that all heavy duty engines like have to go to net zero.
Yeah. When
the entire trucking industry at large, like it is impossible to do that. And it's counterproductive to do that for many reasons. Sacrificing cargo load, the fact that you can't run the trucks as often as you could on fossil fuels. But they're just like, no, these are the decisions that we're going to make. These are the winners that we're going to pick. And all of the obstacles we're just going to solve after the fact.
Right.
And that's not a recipe for success.
No, it's not. Yes, tend to make regulations and say this is the way it's going to be before actually thinking it out. So
yeah, and how that plays out for your state and local economies. But anyways, I'll jump off my soapbox and turn it back to you. I want to get into the renewables and the subsidies because I think it was a big topic this year at the CFCA. But before we get into 45Z and kind of what that means for the renewable market, can you explain like what CFCA is and, your role on the committee and, what you thought of the show this year?
Sure. It was my first year on the summit committee. So CFCA is California Fuels and Convenience Alliance. And they have a summit. They have changed the name for the summit several times. Used to be Pacific Oil Conference back in the day, but
now oil is a dirty word.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it is California. It's suppliers, convenience stores, vendors, equipment manufacturers, all that type of stuff. But so the planning process, I came in a little bit late this year, so I didn't have like a full year on the committee. But it really was, I think the thing for me was meeting all of the people that were on, because there's someone from Flyers, from Lakeview Petroleum, like, our competitors kind of, but also, really great to meet them and be open. I mean, I think this industry is big enough for all of us to play in it, and that we can help each other.
Yeah.
So I did really appreciate that, being on the board with other people, that it was like, of course we planned everything, but then you talk about your own business too and like how you do things. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's great. And they're like, oh, well, this is what we would do. And I was like, well, that's amazing that we can share this information and like, I can have that contact and, maybe I could work with her. She could help us out with the load or, whatever it is. So I would say that was like my one takeaway and thing that I really appreciated the most about it. The people that I met on the committee and the camaraderie that we had. But I mean, being on a committee, you gotta like plan some stuff. You take your votes and make your decisions. Right?
I think when we're talking about the state associations, it is kind of weird at first because it is a group of competitors, right, that are sitting there either talking about a trade show or talking about legislation or talking about issues with the industry. And, there are some areas that you definitely don't get into. Like you don't talk about pricing, you don't talk about territories, anything that violate antitrust. But the longer you stay involved in it, you realize there is a lot of common ground, particularly on the regulatory or the legislative issues where you're like, hey, did you know that X, Y, and Z is coming down the pipe? You're like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, this is how we're preparing for that, additional regulatory visit. Like, here's how we got our ducks in a row. And you're like, oh man, there's a lot of best practices that we can share together. Mm-hmm. So I think that there is a lot that you can gain from each other. But when you first get into it, it's very standoffish because you're like sitting at a table with a bunch of my competitors, what do they think of me and what do I think?
Right.
And before you know it, you're like, oh, here's what we've adopted in our safety program that you guys should think about. Like, oh, that's a great tip. I'm going to run with that. That was really beneficial to be in this meeting.
Right.
When I didn't think I was going to talk to you when I first walked in the door.
Yes, absolutely. It is a little intimidating at first. And then, how close are we going to be? Like, how much are we engaging? But yes, I guess maybe just had a lucky group.
I think, honestly, that's more common than not. Sure. I mean, there's definitely some shenanigans that'll take place or some bad actors, but that happens in any industry, in any environment. And then for the most part, like, I think most people are pretty even keeled and like-minded. So if you're that guy, you're probably not going to have a lot of friends in that room, and everybody else is just going to carry on with their committee assignments and focusing on bills that need to be focused on and just get on the job. So it's good. I'm glad that you're involved in it. I think we're very active in any market where we do business. We want to know what's going on, and we want to know and have relationships that are open to us.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So outside of just the trade show, a big topic was obviously the refinery shutting down, and some of those big oil companies were there to say that we're not leaving the market. We're just no longer refining in the market. And then 45Z is a big hot topic. There's a ton of confusion on.
Sure.
If you're trying to break that down to the layman, how would you explain 45Z and what sort of impact that's having on fuel marketers here in the United States?
Sure. So 45Z was laid out in Biden's the IRA and was really not defined very well, which was part of the problem when it came online. But ultimately, it took the place of the $1 biodiesel blenders tax credit, which has been around was around for quite some time. It was kind of like a zombie credit that just was always around. So 45Z came in line at the beginning of this year, which kind of threw the market into a frenzy because they were giving basically different, I guess, values to different types of feedstocks and that thing. So it was like, well, how do I know, like, if you're trying to make feedstocks deals to buy your corn or to whatever, like, what's going to be my best deal? Like, who's the winners and the losers in this? And then it was also like, they didn't really outline how much it was. It was between 20 cents to $1. So, okay, well, they're used to getting pretty wide range, right? So, that's dependent on feedstock and all the carbon capture and all these different things. So, but I will say, Trump did come in and make some clarifications to it, which have helped stabilize it a little bit. But I mean, really, the main thing in it is that there is no domestic product brought in. So, which is great. I mean, because we're able to focus on like domestic products and feedstock and what we have here, American made, which we should. And I think that is really like Trump, something that he supports. It's an agricultural world and we're just living in it kind of thing. So, which is great.
Just to recap on 45Z. So 45Z, we're talking about feedstocks, which is, for lack of a better term, the raw material that's required in the manufacturing process to create a clean fuel, such as biodiesel, renewable diesel, sustainable aviation fuel, or ethanol. Those are kinds of main clean fuels. And prior to some of the changes in Biden's administration and clarifications from Trump, is that much of the feedstock coming into America was international. And there's definitely a domestic base with your local farmers, which is great. But the change was they didn't want any international feedstock coming in. So now you have a limited amount of supply of your raw material base that's required to make these clean fuels.
Right.
So Trump comes in, he adds some clarification, still doubles down on the domestic feedstock that we're pro-domestic feedstock. Right. So it still limits the supply. Well, one of the other issues that has been brought up is that the way they price the credit or the subsidy per gallon is, I believe it's currently sitting at, with the recent changes, $1 per gallon for biodiesel, renewable diesel, that category, but $1.75 for SAF.
Yes. And I think they might have, that was a point of contention, $1.75 for SAF. So
Sustainable aviation fuel,
yes.
For those that aren't familiar. Jet fuel alternative.
Right. So facilities were like, gonna make my renewable diesel facility or bio into making SAF facility, right?
Which kind of like depletes your bio and renewable market. And you're now dealing with limited supply because you're not bringing in international feedstock.
Right.
So that paradigm shift has to happen, which, it takes some time and there's an adjustment, but eventually it does happen. But now you're pricing the subsidies differently for two different categories. So if you're somebody that's in the manufacturing process for clean fuels, do you want $1 subsidy or do you want $1.75?
Right.
We're both in business. We would take $1.75.
Right.
So I think those that are, out there marketing and distributing biodiesel, renewable diesel are going, hey, time out. You're limiting supply and you're pricing the subsidies different. We're not going to be able to go out and meet these clean fuel standards that states like California want by selling more renewable diesel because you've completely adjusted the supply chain as well as the pricing of the subsidies. So I think that's what's getting everybody so up in arms about wanting more clarification and adjustments to this 45Z standard.
Right. I agree. And they did, I will say one of the things that Trump's EPA was, they did address the indirect land use change, the ILUC, which was kind of like, because waste feedstocks are given more, are seen as better, or like more environmentally friendly, right? As opposed to like corn or something. But that kind of like gives a little bit level of a playing field for all of the, fuels. It's like, what is it? Distillers corn oil, used cooking oil, ethanol, all of it kind of has the same playing field now. Makes it a little bit better.
Yeah. And again, that's that input that's required. And my experience is they've kind of weighted them differently.
Yeah.
Your carbon intensity score or whatever weighting measure they're using nowadays is like, this, feedstock byproduct is better than actually using something that could be used for agricultural purposes. Right. But again, there's only a limited amount of supply of either or. So trying to keep the supply up with the demand in an ever-changing regulatory environment is challenging.
It is. And 45Z does not play well with California's LCFS either. They kind of contradict. So that also makes it difficult for,
federal standards being at odds with local state standards.
Right.
Yeah. And it doesn't bode well, like for Californians in particular. And you've got similar things happening in Washington and Oregon and on the East Coast to a degree. And it seems like it's those coastal states that just really want to make it super hard to keep energy reliable and affordable for their constituents. So if you're a constituent in those states, I hope you're listening, and I hope that you're voting people in about practical business sense, because that has not been the reality for several decades now.
Right. Yeah.
And you see the result of it in the state. Like, I don't think California is going particularly well, which is sad for me.
Right.
And
yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah. And as a state resident, it's like you want your state to do well. You want to lean in and support it, and you just have bad leadership.
Yes.
But leadership can change.
That's the hope.
Even though Gavin's definitely gearing towards a presidential.
Oh, gosh.
What are your thoughts on Gavin Newsom?
Do you really want to hear?
Sure. He's got great hair. I always try to start with a compliment, because sometimes you have to be in the room with these people, right? Especially when you're lobbying or discussing a bill. It's like, I always try to find some common ground, because I don't want to go in there and just immediately enter a debate.
Right.
About the only good thing I could say for Gavin Newsom, he's got great hair.
Yeah. Great hair. I mean, he does. I mean, I guess he's, attractive enough for a politician. Like, he looks well on TV when he speaks, I would say, but that's about it. I don't know if it's him or his aunt that I I don't care for more.
How would you grade him on his energy policy? A, B, C, D, or F?
F.
Okay. How would you grade him on his approach to homelessness?
Oh, well, that's probably an F also.
Okay. If you were to generalize it and say, how would you grade him on, is he good for the business environment or is he not good for the business environment?
I don't think he's pro-business either. I mean, yeah, I don't see it, but I mean, he'd be unbiased because
you're a counselor. Your opinion should matter to Gavin Newsom. So far, you don't agree with him on energy. You don't agree with him on the homeless issue. You don't agree with him that he's not good for business. Do you think he's good on social or cultural issues?
Well, no.
Like your public school
systems? No. My daughter goes to private, so no.
Which is expensive in California.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yes.
And I understand, we do public here in Nevada. I think Nevada can do a lot better with their public systems. And down the road, we might switch to private. But it's sad that you have to budget in private expenses just because of the failures of the public education system.
Right.
It's really like the DMV for school.
And I mean, we didn't, have to deal with a lot of during COVID and, gender issues. And that's what her school thinks. And we are with that. So
last year at WPMA, we had a woman's advocate, Riley Gaines.
Yes.
And you were at the Ladies Great, right?
Yeah.
So how did that go? What did you think of Riley Gaines?
She was great. So, obviously I knew her story, I guess, a little bit, what happened to her. And, she was an athlete and that she was, beat out by this
6'4" biological male.
A biological male. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I knew that story and, but I didn't realize how involved she had gotten after that, into women's rights and all of these issues. She was really, and she said, I didn't go to college for this, but she definitely, how she spoke resonated really well. And I thought she was very well spoken and she definitely, she was a great speaker and I could see definitely getting behind her and she was very rational in everything she said.
Yeah.
I mean, so she experienced it. So her feelings are valid and her experience are valid. She went through that and that's what, they're going to give this man this trophy and are you kidding me?
Yeah. And how they handled things behind
the scenes too. Yeah.
I mean, anybody that stepped out of line with that agenda was, you're public enemy number one and you're going to be destroyed because this is right and it's right. And we don't really need to talk about any opposing viewpoints. It's wait a minute. This is everything anti-Chapter 9. And in America, I thought it was the best idea wins. It rises to the top. You might disagree with me on a particular issue. I'm not going to argue or scream at you about it, but we can definitely share opposing viewpoints respectfully. Sure. And that was just totally eliminated during the whole COVID and, boys versus girls agenda. It was crazy.
Right.
And I was really pleased to have her there. And, I didn't get a chance to talk to her because men are not invited to luncheons. We actually make that very clear. But if I could talk to her, I would tell her that huge fan. And I would hope that my daughters would grow up with the same amount of courage and moral conviction as she did, because the easiest thing to do is just go along to get along.
Absolutely.
And if you do have a moral foundation and you have values, it makes decisions really easy because you're I'm making this decision based on this value. This is a family value or this is my moral foundation. And what you're suggesting opposes that. I'm not being rude about it, but I'm saying I don't agree.
Right.
That should be perfectly fine in my opinion.
Absolutely. And the hate she got was just
brutal.
Yeah. I can't imagine going through that.
No, it was, again, one of those things where it had to get worse before it gets better, because I think I don't think the country was on board with that largely. Mm-hmm. I think it was a 97% to 3% issue. But for whatever reason, the people in power really wanted to push that agenda. Right. And it exposed it for all of its faults, right? The same thing happened during COVID. I got no problem with making the wrong decision out of the gate, especially if it's something new, novel virus, you don't know anything.
Sure.
But once you have enough data and you have enough information to go,
you double down on it.
that's the thing that baffles me the most is that you'll continue to double down on a bad idea despite all the facts opposing it. And then you're like, okay, then that's an agenda. It's not that you made the wrong call. I made a lot of wrong calls. We all make mistakes.
Sure.
You try to learn from those mistakes and get better. And that thought process and that critical thinking just wasn't there. It was like, nope, we're going to stick to this.
Right.
And if you're opposed to this, like you're outside the group now. And that was awful.
It was.
All right. So stepping away from California at the state or local level, there are some federal things that are on our radar. Right. The Credit Card Competition Act is a big one. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit so people are educated on the limited options that we have. Mm-hmm. And then also maybe talking about the High Blend Infrastructure Program, of which, we're in the process of that right now. So turning it over to you, what is the Credit Card Competition Act? Why are retailers in particular like so invested in this topic?
I mean, retailers, it is the credit card processing fees are the most expensive thing after labor. It's usually the second line item, I would say. So, any way that you can reduce your credit card processing fees is crazy because you think, they do $100 fill up. Amex is 3% transaction fee, maybe a little bit more. So I'm giving $3 of my $100 transaction away. Like that's my margin pretty much.
Just for processing the transaction.
Yeah, just for processing the transaction. I mean, I think that's why Arco for years didn't take credit cards, So it was cash only basically or debit. So.
If you want that price on the side.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why most retailers do the, dual pricing, your cash and credit price, because I think as a retailer, you would rather give that 10 cents off a gallon to the customer for being a loyal customer, not to the credit card company, right?
Yeah.
Who's already making enough. But the Credit Card Competition Act, I mean, they basically just want to be able to route the transaction multiple ways. And so you have the choice to route it, I guess the cheapest way or the least expensive way. So, I mean, that should be, an option, right? I mean, to reduce fees.
To consumers. It's allowing businesses to kind of pass on that cost saving to consumers. Because the reality is if you're basically grossing up 3% of whatever the good or service is that you're selling, you're going to pass that through to your customer base. So if you can eliminate that, it actually makes it more affordable for consumers. But my big question whenever we follow a bill, right, especially one this big, is who's monopolizing that currently? Because that's your opposition.
Right.
So who is it? Visa, MasterCard primarily that basically have a stranglehold on all processing?
Yeah.
So that's where the opposition would come from. They want to keep that market share. And they don't want to introduce more competition into the processing world. So that's the big fight right now that's happening is I would say you're probably mostly small businesses in the United States that want more optionality. So you can pass on that. And you got Visa and MasterCard out there that have this stranglehold and they don't want to let the grip go.
Right.
And it's a big lobby to fight, especially grassroots movements, opposing it.
Right. I mean, I think all of this, state agencies are like convenience store state agencies are on board with it. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
NACS.
Yeah.
Every association that I follow, just loosely, they seem to be pretty much in uniformity on that topic. And they don't always agree on every topic.
Right.
Refineries might have a different opinion than distributors.
That's true.
On the Credit Card Competition Act, I'm sure the devil's in the details, because you don't want government picking winners and losers. But just from a general standpoint, I'd say introducing more competition would be good. Mm-hmm. How that looks and how that bill and the legal language works out.
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So another federal topic that actually we're kind of ingrained in from a business standpoint is the HBIF. Mm-hmm. What is the HBIF and why should any marketer, jobber out there be concerned or educated on that topic?
Yes. So it's the Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program. It's the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. It is a grant for higher blends of biodiesel or ethanol. Renewable diesel is not included because renewable diesel has the same AST. It's like compatible with traditional
ULSD.
diesel. Yeah. So there wouldn't be any infrastructure changes or anything like that. So it's for biodiesel and E85. I would say it certainly is, it could be a new to industry site that you're building, or it could be, retrofitting a site or whatever to add E85 in, or B20, even B100 is approved in some places. So you could do that. But it is a federal grant, and we have applied for it and received funding, or so we think. Our reporting is due for it. But you email the USDA with your information. It says we're on furlough. We cannot respond. They're like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing about that, but I'm like, oh, yikes. So, the program has closed now. There hasn't been any new funding introduced. I mean, Trump was the one who initially introduced the grant program, the HBIPP, Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program, but he introduced it. So, there was hope that, I think ours came back from 2023 was our grant. So, we've signed all the documents and all that. So, I'm hopeful that we're locked in. And they said we were, last time, but so.
We made the investment based on that, that grant. So, hopefully
exactly.
The government honors what they said they would do, because it wasn't easy to get. Largely, you doing the lion's share of the work. Environmental reports, hydrology reports, even post-site build, all the follow-up reports to make sure that the USDA's, program investment is doing what it was intended to do, which is to push new infrastructure into a market that is selling renewables, whether it's a B20 or higher blend, or whether it's, high ethanol blend. And it's because you need particular type of infrastructure to sell those products. And the state has deemed that they want those products sold. So you're trying to keep up with that regulatory environment and going, man, there's a huge infrastructure cost to this. If you guys are the ones dictating it, do you mind helping out with this here? Because it's not inexpensive.
Right.
So, hopefully it goes well. I'm excited about that CARB block build. Hopefully we'll be able to break ground by the end of the year, early next year, and then have a, bio location that we can offer to the high desert in California.
Yes, it will be great. Bio, E85. Red dye R99.
Traditional products as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the grant doesn't go towards that. It just helps offset the cost for the higher blend infrastructure that's going in. But, we want to make sure that you have traditional petroleum products in addition to these clean fuels. So that way the choice is to the consumer.
Absolutely.
And we're not dictating it. And we can, have some storage available, because it's a difficult market to keep up with supply, because it's ever evolving and changing. And you have the ability to get a full load in and sit on that, you're not so reliant on the supply chain keeping up with the regulatory environment.
Yeah, definitely. You could even use it for E15 in California now.
Yeah.
Since it's approved. Finally. It's the last state.
I was going to say, how many states are left? Was California?
California is the very last state.
E15. Mm-hmm. So that's full calendar year. You can now sell E15.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you're out there and you're an ethanol fan, go get your E15 in California, the last state to approve it.
Well, CARB is, of course, doing more studies on it, but Newsom did sign it into law. So
some consultant needs to get paid for that study, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Studies on studies on studies. It's like California needs a Doge badly. All right. Well, before we wrap, I always like to end with kind of a fun topic. You mentioned that you're recently watching Landman.
Yeah.
How far into the season are you?
Almost. I think there's 1 or 2 episodes left.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost done.
What do you think of it so far?
Oh my God, I love it. I am obsessed with it. What's the actor's name?
Billy Bob?
Yes, I love him.
Oh yeah.
His character is so great.
He's like Bad Santa. Have you ever seen that movie? It's the Bad Santa character just put in Odessa, Texas, right? In the oil patch. He's basically Bad Santa with a cowboy hat on an oil field.
I know, oh my God.
Crude.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the infamous scene where he's taking out the lawyer. I just like always like, I'm like, I'm going to replay this scene. This is so true. He's like telling her how it is.
It is. And the funny thing is, because I have a lot of friends in California, which is like, it's a different world that you live in.
Yeah.
And very much almost to the T of that lawyer character is like, you get the same talking points. And you're like, I don't ever want to be rude because I really like, I don't want to take for granted that we live and breathe it every day. So we're very accustomed to the hurdles that we face where they're not, right? They're just like, yeah, California fuel prices are expensive because of the greedy oil companies. I'm like, greedy oil companies don't shut down refineries if they're making that much money.
Right.
Right. You don't walk away from a $40 billion asset in a regulatory environment that doesn't allow you to rebuild them in other locations. That's not what's driving up the price. So I really try to not win the debate per se, but like plant a seed. Like, is it possible that your opinion on this matter, whether you were informed by the news or something that you read or something that you overheard, might have been biased.
Right.
And maybe there's a bigger picture that you're just not privy to. And if I can offer a little bit of information that plants a seed that maybe that's not the full story, and maybe the industry isn't exactly that evil bad guy that it's been portrayed to be for many, many decades, like, would you be willing to accept that reality? And if you can just kind of move the needle a little bit, it might start them on their journey towards reality.
Right. That's the approach you have to take because you're not going to like just flip them.
Yeah. Billy Bob took it very different.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started.
Sorry.
He just goes off and you're like, everything you said was true.
Right.
Not my delivery system, but from a TV standpoint, I loved it.
Sure.
It's funny because Christy and I watch it. Her mom, very Christian, definitely would love to watch it, like the oil industry. And she's not, a nun. Like we watched There Will Be Blood together. But she tried to watch it. She was like, it's just too much cursing. It's too cruel. And she's like, and yes, Ollie Lauder is beautiful, but like, I don't need to see her in all her outfits. I'm like, I don't mind it.
Yeah, my husband doesn't mind either.
Yeah. Like it. I think it's a great show. So they're actually coming out with season 2 in like the next month or so.
Oh, are they? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
They already filmed it.
Yes, I think I did.
Not to ruin the ending, but yeah, there's some new characters that are coming into the show as well. And I think existing characters playing more of a role.
Okay.
So it should be fun to follow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. I think that California is a very complex, not only business environment, but if you're trying to keep up with what's going on in the energy sector in California, you can get lost. So I appreciate having someone like you that is knowledgeable in it that can come in and kind of try to break it down to layman's terms and explain what's going on in the wacky state of California.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. You are.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Jobbers, American Energy. If today's episode gave you a new perspective or reminded you why this work matters, leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. It really does help support the show. For more episodes and resources, visit jobberspodcast.com. Until next time.